mo I loko o ke po ka malamalama. E malama ia, malama kou kino, malama kou hane, e malama kou unihipili. A me aha kanaka, eli kapu, eli noa, a mama ua noa. Mahalo kākou. And welcome to the first annual Natural Farming Symposium. I hope you guys all have fun. Great. Let's get this show on the road.
I am the state president of Hawaii Farmers Union United. We are the solution. We represent the solution of agriculture here in Hawaii. I feel very honored and fortunate to be in the position I'm in, representing family farms. Can you hear me now? My little background on our farm, 21 years ago I went to a men's leadership seminar on the mainland, and I came back telling my wife, babe, I can't live this lie anymore. I want to work the land. And I've always been an avid gardener. And she said, go for it, babe, you know. So I was letting go of the trapeze I was on, which was a decorative painter. And I was reaching out for the other trapeze that was out there, which was farming. Never farmed before in my life. And so, you know, as a trapezist, the fear is the in-between, you know. The fear of the unknown, whether we're going to make it to the trapeze. But have you ever met a trapezist that wasn't committed to getting to the trapeze? You know? So we make a living on 2,000 square feet. We produce about 400 pounds of greens a week in a plant-based compost, and using Korean natural farming protocols. So in developing the Farmers Union 5 years ago, it was based on having a farming organization that would have representation here locally on a national level. So I just came back from Washington, D.C., where the National Farmers Union flies in all the state presidents for what they call a yearly fly-in, and we meet with all the legislators associated with our state and talk about what we want to see here in Hawaii and the kind of agriculture that we are value. And the beautiful thing about that is we go in there as not an anti-organization. We go in there saying that we're here to represent our farmers who value practicing methods that are regenerative in nature, and they resonate with that. Okay, so what just happened, this lei fell off my shoulder, and it reminded me of something very important I need to stop and do. Okay, I want to recognize Jackie Prell right now and give her this lei, because without Jackie Prell, this could not have happened today. Jackie has devoted her life to this. If you get Acres USA, she writes beautiful articles for Korean natural farming and Acres, so it's giving it national attention. As a matter of fact, Mike DuPont's going to be giving a presentation to Pennsylvania Agriculture Sustainable Association. They get 2,000 people at their conference in February, and Mike's going to be doing a presentation on Korean natural farming. Hi, Chris. So yeah, we're really excited about the exposure. So in that trip to Washington, D.C., I also advocated for a year ago to have a committee, a national committee on regenerative agriculture and local food. And so now we have national representation for that. It's the first time that a national farming organization is supportive of these initiatives. And that's exciting to me, because I was on the board of the Farm Bureau from 2005 to 2008. And I couldn't even get soil health on the agenda. You know, good people, just I don't value their policies. So we get to create our own policies. And we've had some really wonderful work in that respect. A lady here on the island, Malian Leahy, is Malian here today? Was instrumental in developing our policies and articulating our policies and what we value. So, you know, this organization is built from a culture, just like Korean natural farming. It's an alchemy of elementals that come together, and those elementals sometimes are people, and the people you all have gifts. Everyone in this room has gifts and joy that you like to express. And so what we do is we create this montage of beautiful energy that is people's gifts bringing to an event, just like today. You know, if any one of you here wasn't here right now, it would be a completely different event. So we all are the event. And so in our 9 chapters that we have throughout the islands now, as a matter of fact, this coming Tuesday, we'll have our 9th chapter. We have Hannah in the house today. Seth, yeah, brother? All right, Hannah is in the house. That's going to be our 9th chapter of the Farmers Union. We have Kauai. Who's here from Kauai? All right, Kauai is in the house. And then we have Oahu. Anyone here from Oahu? All right, mahalo, mahalo. And we have 3 chapters on Maui. We have Mauna Kahalavai, the West Maui chapter. We have Haleakala, and we have Hana. Okay, and then on Big Island Smilin', I can't understand why you guys haven't made a T-shirt yet that says Big Island Smilin'. I've been, we have Kohala. Anybody from Kohala chapter? All right, aloha Kohala. And we have Kona here in the house today. Come on, you guys. You got all the coffee over there. You can made it over here. And then we have Ka'u in the house. Yeah, baby. All right, Richard. And of course, East Hawaii. Yeah, let's give it up for East Hawaii. I hope you're all members, by the way. And so last year we certified 590 members after 5 years of being in existence. And right now, today, as we speak, when I went to Washington, as of August, the end of August, we have 700 members. So we still have September, October, November, December left for new members and renewing members to set a record. We've grown 70% in our membership. National is definitely paying attention, really appreciates the growth of Hawaii. They want to see us get chartered. What chartered means is we have a certain amount of members, around 1,000 to 1,200 members, and then having core leadership and having your financials, and then the national board votes to have you be a chartered organization. What happens is then when I come to the table as a chartered organization, I have a vote at the table on the executive level. But they've been very supportive, and I really appreciate having that national presence there for us. Because when I went to legislature as part of the Farm Bureau, I found out that legislature listens to farming organizations. Well, I mean, when the farming organization is at the table saying, oh yeah, GMOs are great. Oh yeah, monocrop, let's just monocrop the islands with corn and then we'll sell it to the mainland and make a lot of money and, you know, all that kind of stuff. The legislators think, okay, these guys know what they're talking about, you know, that's what we'll support. So as the saying goes, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're part of the menu, you know. And so that's why we appreciate having a seat at the table. As a matter of fact, we just had the governor appoint our legislative chair and vice president of the state, Simon Russell, to the Board of Agriculture. So it's the first time that someone on the Board of Agriculture speaks from a regenerative place. Yeah, regenerative minded thinking, aloha aina, malama aina. So we're real excited about that. And it's been a wonderful evolution as we're advocating. Now, being a family farmer, it was really important for me when developing these chapters that other presidents were also farmers. We have a majority of our presidents that are farmers. And a number of them are certified in Korean natural farming practices. So this is no mistake, or this is no coincidence. This is what we advocate for. This is what we're about. And so this is important to articulate and our movement forward. So what I'd like to do is when I go in and talk to these legislators, I say to them, look, we're not here to make anyone or any practice wrong. We're here to support our members who value these practices, okay? So we're a solution-based organization. We're not an anti-organization. Thankfully, there are anti-organizations out there doing great work to keep that awareness raised, yeah. Okay, about the corporate fiction. So on our farm, I put this presentation together. I kind of tweaked it the other day from a presentation I've had. So I'm going to touch on a number of different innovative things we're doing on making a living on 2,000 square feet. This is on a 7,000 square foot lot. Because I didn't have land or equipment. And the government wasn't supporting me to be on more land. And I was not going to dig myself into a grave to be a farmer. You know what the definition of a rut is? That's a grave with the ends knocked out of it, waiting for the soil. I didn't want to get myself into a rut. I wanted to farm. I wanted to be with my plants. But our society right now isn't supporting that. Our society is supporting extracting, is supporting consumption, excessive consumption, and greed, which basically makes us all collateral damage to it. We'll have babies and they'll be the next ones to buy that stuff. So we need to really make a statement here as to our own well-being, and it's happening through the millennial population. The millennials are between 18 and 34. How many here are between 18 and 34? Please raise your hands up high. Okay, that's a great showing. That's wonderful. Yeah, because us old guys, I'm the average age of a farmer. I'm 62, and we need the young farmers to be able to start showing up in ways that value these things and know that we got your back, when it comes to meeting with these legislators and stuff. Because most of the legislators don't have a clue about agriculture. Thankfully, we have one in the audience today, Richard Cregan. Richard, please stand up and recognize a representative here on Big Island. But for the most part, we don't have that, and so we need to educate them in a way that's Aloha style, yeah. So this is a 21-year-old farm, okay? So basically, we've been culturing our compost now for 21 years. And I say culturing it because we're growing everything in flats in a plant-based compost, and then we cut those greens, and then we recycle the flats back onto the land. So this is a part of the first slide, please. The first part of this was developing a vermicomposting system. So I wanted to show you not only the system, but how I went about doing it so you can do it yourself if that your spirit moves from this. Basically create a cinder block base and then took these PVC pipes or sewer pipes, 2-foot diameter sewer pipes. That's the diameter I found works the best for a system like this. I just couldn't make those little worm bins, like a Rubbermaid bin or whatever, work because I was creating too much material, for them to process. So I needed a bigger area. And this really helped me be able to containerize it in a way that made it efficient. And so I was working smart instead of hard. So I cut those 2-foot diameter pipes in half and then covered it with corrugated iron as a lid. Next slide, please. And it shows plumbing them. Next slide. And I cut a groove in the middle, and then every 2 feet cut a hole where I use soffit vents, 2-inch diameter holes, put soffit vents that you see in the soffits of buildings. So when the water would drain, the castings would stay behind. And so it falls into that trough. So they're not sitting in water. The worms aren't sitting in water. This PVC pipe, by the way, is like 1 inch thick. It's bulletproof. If you can find construction sites that have pieces of this laying around, it's really great material. It's about $1,500 for a 20-foot section if you buy it outright, but that gives you 40 linear feet. And you can create a lot of earthworm castings. I have a sample I'll pass around so you guys can see the kind of quality you can get. Next slide, please. So I used on the ends, I used recycled plastic lumber. Next slide. And then I put a trellis for the shade the worms, because they like the dark and they like the cool. And then I grow squash and liliquai and anything that'll vine, grow it up under the trellis. And the neat thing about this trellis is it's 2-inch diameter PVC pipe. If you take 2x2 pieces of lumber, you can drive it into that 2-inch PVC, and it makes it like a 4x4 post. It gives it stoutness, especially for the horizontal. You won't get any sagging. Yeah, so you just fill it with wood. And it's really stout. Next slide, please. And that's some of the ipus that I'm growing off of the trellis. And I get sawdust from a woodworking shop for free, that I gather and I mulch around with. And next slide. and I put IMO3 underneath, of course. So this is the materials I use. I get the juice pulp from the health food store. They throw it out, basically, and I get all their juice pulp. I get about 100 pounds a week I process through that 40 linear feet. Carbon source, I use sawdust and newspaper. Shredded is better. And then this here, this material, and I'll pass it around, this really wonderful material I'm bringing in. You know, we talk about not bringing anything in from the mainland and all that, and I get it. One thing you got to understand is, well, one thing from my experience in being a farmer, you don't have to understand anything, but just sharing my experience, is that we're growing a lot of European plants here on the islands that we consume. And we don't have the European soils. And our soils are young. And not only are they young, they've been depleted by cane and pineapple, monocropped production systems that have just, you know, set us back. It would have been cool if the government held these people accountable to revitalize the soils before they left. But anyhow, these minerals here, a friend of mine gave to me from Idaho, was in this basin from over the millennium. And he said, flying over it, it looked like Grand Central Station. I said, what are you talking about? He said, all the animal tracks that were coming in from all the directions, feeding off of these minerals. So I'm now taking them personally. It won't grow hair, but other than that, it's good stuff, you know. The animals, feed them to the animals, but also, and you'll see some pictures, mixing it with IMO3 because it's chelated with humic and fulvic acids in its development over the millennium. It just loves IMO3. Okay, and then also we're making biochar on Maui, and I have some samples of that you can check out. I give the worms biochar and sand as grit, and also condominiums for the microbes is the biochar. Is Josiah here? Josiah's making also here on the island. And then coconut coir, and then of course IMO3. That all goes into the worm bin. Okay, next. So this is a picture of the kiawe and coconut biochar. The coconut biochar is on the left and the kiawe is on the right. Next picture. Worms love watermelon. If you lay watermelon rinds on top of your worm, and it's a great home. Moist and dark, they just love it. Next picture. That's what it looks like. You know, there's a reason why organic and orgasmic are so close together. You know. Next picture, please. And that's the crumbly texture of the vermicomposting with the biochar, and it's all about structure. You know, if we were in this room, just say we had a couple, 300 more people in this room, we wouldn't feel as comfortable as we feel right now. Yeah, so it's about having space and structure in the soil. So that helps, the aggregates help create that. Next picture. So and there's a sample you can see, but that's basically what it looks like when it's finished. It's so cool too, because I'll open up a bin and I'll rub my hand across, it feels like silk. All the castings, they deposit the castings at the top. And it's these simple pleasures. I mean, I get so high off of this stuff, you know. It's so cool. And now if only I can marry that with, you know, like these guys that are making choke money, developing computer chips, you know. This is where the people need to really be supported, is in this kind of stuff. Next. Now this was a microscopic picture. It doesn't really show up too well here, but basically it's showing a slime that's on the casting and on the biochar, and that slime is the proteins and sugars that the earthworms deposit. So that's the kind, that's the fat of the land, you know, when you think about it, yeah. Next slide. Worm bins are great for sprouting stuff, you know, and you know, these were volunteer butternut squash sprouts that just showed up. Next slide. So what I do, I get to basically take the juice pulp from the health food store. The worms like it grounded up. They can really rip through stuff fast when it's ground up like that. And then I mix in the powder, the mineral powder. Next slide. Then mix in with some biochar. And how people say, well, how much do you use? I say, I like Parmesan cheese, you know. I'm Italian, so that's how I equate it, you know, Parmesan cheese, like you're putting on your meal. Next slide. And so then I mix that all together, and then I bring the castings that are in there, I bring it all together and just mix it all together, and you can just feel that it's not too moist and not too dry, just to where, you know, worm would be happy environment. I don't get much leachate that falls out of the bin, so then I know I'm doing a good job in the spirit of, you know, don't have to, I was collecting the leachate, I was making it too wet because I wanted leachate, but it was humbug, it was a lot of work. So I figured, you know what, just dry it out. That's what you learn along the way, you evolve, you know, to understand how you can work smarter and still get the, what you're looking for, the quality, yeah. Next slide. So you want to make sure that your worm bin doesn't get over 80 degrees. Otherwise you have cooked worms. Next slide. That's what a worm egg looks like. I have a friend of mine who got a contract from NASA to do microscopic photography of sand, of moon sand. And he's going to work with me to do microscopic photography of a worm egg. Next slide. So this is how I expose it. I just open the lid, expose it to the light, the worms dive down, I scrape off all the castings on the top. I take about 5 pounds, next slide, and put it into a tea brewer that I developed. Now, on a farm, you MacGyver stuff, you know, with what you have. And there's a 55-gallon drum that I took the bottom out of a 5-gallon bucket, and you can see it on the right-hand slide. The pipes are intersecting. Well, underneath the pipes, there's holes. So when I stick that whole unit down into the 55-gallon drum, water comes up and seeks its own level as to the 55-gallon drum. And then at the bottom of that PVC pipe, I put air hoses. So I run an air pump that pushes the water up through, and it creates that jacuzzi that you see on the left. You know, so you have a lot of air movement in your compost tea brew. Yeah. Next slide. So I've also put in a sink with a garbage disposal. I've always wanted to have a garbage disposal that I could collect the garbage, you know. And so all our kitchen scraps we process, and you can see on the left picture the collection colander there, and then I just grind it up like I'm getting it from the health food store, that same way, pulp, and then put it into the bin. Next slide. So this is the microscopic photography that I was talking to you about. In this picture here, you can see the hyphae here going across. Well, this is blown up. This is the same hyphae. So this is IMO, this is mill run of wheat, and biochar. And that's the fungal activity that's happening, the fungal activity that's happening on a microscopic level. Now, this picture was multiple pictures of 1 millimeter of material. He took multiple pictures and made a composite, and that's what it looks like. Next slide. So this is the kind of things you want to keep out of your worm bin. I mean, if you really want to make an efficient, compost that you can pull material out, I mean, I process that juice pulp and everything. It processes in with less than a week. I'm coming back with another 100 pounds, less than a week later to process. With this kind of stuff in there, you're not going to do that. It's going to take a lot longer, especially with red wigglers. Yeah. Next. Okay, so this is basically, some facts about worms. You want to make sure your pH, if you get in there with a carbon source with your juice pulp, you're going to keep the temperature down, and your pH will be pretty much balanced. But this is some of the ways that you can balance your pH. Next slide. So this is when we were making IMO 3, and we make it by the ton. A friend of mine back on Maui, as a matter of fact, Zeth and myself and Ricky Apana, who has this, he makes a Kiavi biochar. I mean Kiavi charcoal for people throughout the state. If you see in the store Kiavi charcoal, that's my friend. He has the facility and the equipment to do that, and then we also make biochar out of the Kiavi. So this is as you can see the footprints in it, it becomes real spongy, and you'll see in making IMO 3 with mill run of wheat that come to pass. Now, why mill run of wheat? Well, the university extension agent on Maui had it tested, and in that test it showed that the mill run is loaded with biostimulants. So when you apply IMO 2 to the mill run, it just takes off like wildfire. It stimulates the biology. Yeah. So in a pile like this, it's only 18 inches tall. The first day, we're getting up to 120 degrees. And we've gotten it down pretty good as far as the moisture content to make sure that that temperature doesn't get up higher. Because it's important, and you'll find out, that you don't want high temperatures, because then it sterilizes your compost. And then when you try to put it out in the field, it's not acclimated to the temperatures in the field. So you want to keep your temperatures down. Next slide. shows you the spongy nature of it when I push my hand in it. Next slide. So this is how we make it by the ton. We use a cat and use a dumpster. And what they're putting on is the IMO mixture that we have being gravity fed from up above through a hose, and then we mix it up. So it's kind of cool that we can make it in that level. Dr. Park, it's a little different than your machine, but works. The next slide. And this is inside an area that we cover with beach mats, so it's still breathing, but yet in the dark. Yeah, that's a covered roof over that too. So that's approximately 1 ton of material, those 2 rows. Next slide. That's what it looks like when it's uncovered. And we do it on a bed of biochar. So when we start to turn it, we implement some of the biochar into it. And I have a sample bag that you guys can check out on that too. Next slide. And that's the beautiful thing right there, you know. Look at the white, the actinomycetes that's on that IMO3. That's a very active pile. That is, to me, you know, I love seeing that when I take the cover off, you know, and you know you did something right. Yeah. Next slide. That's what I call the IMO3 biochar cookie. You know, because it holds together really nice, and you can see all that fungal network through it. You put that under a microscope, you know, you just see the kind of stuff that I showed you earlier. Next slide. This is our compost area on our farm. We run about 4 piles, and basically do it in a clockwise direction. I took an old wheelbarrow, put a screen on it, and that's my compost screener. And there's the vermicomposting area in the back. So our compost area is 400 square feet that supports our farm. Next slide. And there's the close-up of the compost screener. Just an old cement mixer. Everybody's got cement mixers at their house they used for one time, and it just sits there, you know. So this is a great way to, because it just turns a perfect speed. And the screen I used was an inch steel screen on the outside, and then a 1/2 inch on the inside. The 1/2 inch won't hold up real well, but the inch does on the outside. So this way you can, I just had a 1/2 inch before, and it got busted up faster. So this inch works out really good, and then I put a metal band on the outside, so when a shovel hits it, you know, it doesn't destroy the end either. And so yeah, that's really fun. I was just telling a friend, I just came back from that mainland trip for National Farmers Union 2 days ago, well, Monday. And Monday afternoon, after all day flying back from the East Coast, the first thing I did was screen compost, and it just got me right back into what I really value and appreciate about the farm. You can see the piles behind the mixer. So there's one here, and this is where we're building. You can see the flats of trays that are being cut. And I put that fence around it to make sure that they don't collapse over. I can build the pile up so high to where it'll just, it's a static pile. We don't turn it. And so the pile I'm screening from right now, when that's done, we move to the next pile and we build behind us. So we do this in cyclical motion. That's been 21 years in the working. Next slide. This is a fermented plant juice that I'll pass around using how flowers. And Dr. Park showed us how to make fermented plant juice, and it's really a beautiful thing when you make it. It's just that it's, doing it by hand like that when you want to get a lot of it, it's kind of difficult. So developed a system using a spade and a big rubber tub to where you can get in there and just, standing up, you can chop it all up and make a bulk of it pretty quickly. I've had my wife's local girl, and when she tasted it, she said, wow, it tastes like leaf moi. So it's really cool, especially the how flowers are so significant of a flower to the Hawaiian culture, yeah. Next slide. So this is a trial we did at Maui Tropical Plantation, and this is the commercial time of the presentation. We're having our annual convention, our annual state convention at the Tropical Plantation, November 13th through 15th. Highly encourage you to get there. We got Congresswoman Gabbard and her dad, who's the ag chair of the Senate, going to be giving keynote presentations. We're just really excited with the program. It's going to be a 3-day program, ending up with some live music, so we're real excited about that. But we did this trial up at this farm, Bobby Paihea is a dryland taro farmer, and So this is when he plowed the land. This is old cane land, you know. I don't need to go any further than that. You've been on old cane land, you know what it looks like. And so what he did was he grew sun hemp on the property. And that sun hemp was, he grew it up for seed. So what we did was we had the straw afterwards. And we lined up the straw on either side of where he plowed. We laid down a drip, and then we broadcasted IMO3. Now I wanted to make sure that we got the results we were looking for, so we laid a lot down. Yeah. And then we planted the huli and then mulched with the straw of the sun hemp. Now what's really significant about this was when it was developing and growing beautifully, the grass that was on either side, you know, was just the weeds were getting up to this tall, and there was nothing in here, no weeds. The sun hemp and the IMO3. Now I have a video up on YouTube that you can check out to where I put my finger right here and it's like this. You know, as hard as can be. But then when you go underneath the taro, the finger goes right through. So that's really heartening. This is Glenna Owen. Okay, Alika Atai is the president of the Malama Kahalawai chapter. 3/4 of their board is Hawaiian. Myself and Simon Russell, the legislative chair who's on the Board of Agriculture. Well, Glenna Owen is a procurement officer for the Department of Education. And she wants to work with local farmers to get local food into the schools. Yeah. And so Glenna was so excited about, you know, what we were doing there and what this trial represented. As you can see, myself and Scott Enright, Department of Agriculture, Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, there by it, he came and looked at it. He's supporting a dispensary on Maui as a pilot project for Korean natural farming projects, protocols. So that's coming forward. And then you can see the kalo, the bottom right picture, how beautifully it developed. And that was just using IMO3 and using the liquid amendments as it grew. And you'll learn all about that. But really excited about what this represented. The farmer was just so stoked. You mean I don't have to use that weed mat anymore? All the expense of the weed mat he doesn't have to use anymore. He can grow his weed mat using the sun hemp. Chris, you've done a lot of use of sun hemp, yeah? On your farm on Kauai. And so beautiful cover crops. So the more we can, you know, one of the things on the Maui's general plan is supporting the seed industry. Okay, well, we all know what that means, right? It's not getting Maui organic as far as GMO means, right? But we can take that policy and use it to create a cover crop seed industry. Wouldn't that be cool? You know, that we could have a local source of cover crop seed and then start healing these lands that are laying fallow. And then do alley cropping with animals. Mike and his work with animals, you know, we can work out systems, whole systems of agriculture that restore and revitalize the land and at the same time get into quality food production. So we were really excited about what this trial represented. Next slide. Okay, so this is a picture of a kale that in Wailuku, no way you could grow kale like this and not get so totally attacked by the cabbage worm. And look at the vitality of that kale. Yeah, next slide. This is one basil plant, 4 feet. And this was the trial I used and the kale with these minerals in the IMO3. So very excited about what that represents, because once you give the plants the matrix it recognizes to do its genetic best, this is what happens. Yeah, that's a lot of pesto. Next slide. And then, you know, celebrate life because you never know when it's going to end. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your time.
First of all, thank you for the honor of inviting me here today. And in fact, Vince is an amazing guy, because I didn't see one guy more excited about what he's doing, because we served on a task force together. And man, he's like funny, and I saw the serious side about him today. But anyway, you know, I'm not a farmer, I'm not a scientist, but I'm a retailer. I work in a supermarket for KTA Superstores. And, you know, having an agriculture degree and also having to meet a lot of farmers and being born and raised in a sugar plantation, I understand the hardship of being a farmer. I understand the importance of me and my job in helping you sell your products, you know, and it becomes really important. You see, about 35 years ago, I spent 6 hours sitting outside of KTA, watching all the customers come in and come out, and wondering, why did he come shopping? You know, is it because of the price? Is it because of service? Is it because of sanitation? Is it because of the variety? I mean, why did he come to KTA? Then I saw some of the men out in the parking lot, just perspiring and sweating, and the wives in the store talking stars with their friends. I saw some of the kids, you know, holding on to the mom's pants and, you know, crying, or they want something in the store, just nagging, and the mom is just walking out. Then I realized something. I realized there was more than that. People came shopping because they have a problem. What I'm going to feed my family tonight, what I'm going to bring to the party tomorrow, what I'm going to make for lunch for my kid that's going on an excursion. You know, I started to really think about all this, and then I also started to think, wow, you know, people's lifestyle and stuff has started to change, you know, and what I'm here for at KTA is not just selling products, but it's solving people's problems. And you know, today there's a major change and shift, and people want to eat more healthy. You know, they understand a little bit more about health, and I got to provide that for them, because if I don't do that, you know, I'm only creating more problems for them, because they're going to have to go somewhere else and shop. And you know, that understanding of solving people's problem is so important. So, you know, and I tell a lot of students or out there when I speak to them, you know, whether you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, a carpenter, you're a mechanic, or you're a farmer, you got to think about it. Whatever you do, is it your job solving someone's problems? And when you think about being a farmer, right? Isn't your job about solving someone's problem? I think you guys are all here because you guys want to see a little bit more natural products on the market, right? Solving people's problems, okay? Understanding the importance of a customer and my job of solving people's problems created the KTA's private label called Mountain Apple brand. You know, during the fall of the sugar industry, an island economic disaster was about to happen. Tony Taniguchi, my leader, who passed away several years ago, you know, actually, when I'm going to go back, you know, on this layer, I always put it on his picture, you know. I put it on a picture because he was such a mentor to me, and I always tell the group that it represents all your mentors and all of your ancestors that made what it is today. So I put it on here representing everybody. Thank you, okay? So he told me I needed to help the plantation people when the sugar plantation goes under. You know, I didn't think it was ever going to happen because, you know, I'm born and raised in a plantation. I saw all these big trucks and big, you know, all these acres. I mean, you just look, it's sugar cane all the way to the end, right? And I said, there's no way it's going to happen. But he passed away and the sugar industry collapsed. I was motivated by this obligation to make something happen. So 25 years ago, Mountain Apple brand was created without any funding. And I remember there were people with hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, and I was there without anything except the desire to help, and was really, really sincere and serious, and did it all with a handshake. No fancy paperwork or this, just with a handshake. Today we have about 45 different business partners and about 210 products. And every product is either locally grown or manufactured, helping to create jobs and revitalize the island economy. You know, Mountain Apple brand has one supplier. Now, I learned this working for KTA in the beginning, also having an ag degree. Mountain Apple brand has one supplier supplying one product. Now, that became so important for the growth of this label. This prevented local farmers as well as manufacturers to compete within KTA. This enabled them to focus on producing the highest quality product and become an expert in the product they produce. Now that became so important. This also makes them aware that our competition is not items that it's locally grown or produced, but what has been imported to the island. So today I can really proudly say between 90 to 97% of my leafy produce in all our stores is all locally grown. And I never bought in one bunch of banana from the mainland. We had some problem with banana. I just went without bananas. And it's so funny that people kind of understood what I was trying to do there, And I thought that was important. My beef right now, in the past 5 years, from about 5% of our beef sales were local, we're up to 45% now. So, grass-fed. But this is what about, right? We have certain ranchers, one processors, we're working together to kind of build an industry. We also try to, what we want to, I want every Mountain Apple brand product to succeed and not compete with established products. So my jams and jellies, they are sold in a bakery. My kimchi and pickles are sold in the seafood department. My hot dog buns is sold with the hot dog. I try to, as much as possible, keep it away from all these other commodities to give it a fair chance or a better chance of being exposed and sold. We also try to create value-added products, making it different and unique. It's kind of like interesting because, just a couple of days ago, I was in Honolulu. I was a keynote speaker at this manufacturing conference. And I told the manufacturers, okay, we got I think a $2 million grant, right, for all these manufacturers. I say, it's so important because you got to use this money. You got to try to support local because local agriculture will not thrive unless manufacturing is there. Because you got to utilize, and that's what Mountain Apple, we try to utilize all the abundance products, or we try to utilize all the grade Bs or off grades. And, when you do that, your grade A puts it to another level. So I address them and talking to them about, making sure that you survive, but you also try to use local products. We also try to create value-added products, making it different and unique. Let me give you an example. There's all kinds of sweet bread on the shelf. But, Mountain Apple brand sweet bread is a little different. We have coconut. We have things like macadamia nut, So when you put this in the oven, it's so good. It just explodes, right? So, being different. When people eat cookies, they feel guilty of eating cookies. Oh, it's sweet, this and that. You get crumbs all over their dress. No problem. Mountain Apple brand cookie nuggets. It's so small, they just keep on pumping in your mouth like that. Next thing you know, they eat the whole package. Now, my most recent product, and this is called Dakine chips. Okay? Not this kind, not that kind, it's Dakine. Okay? Now, Dakine chips is kind of interesting because it's use all local potatoes, but unfortunately, you can get the price down. So I have some regular potato chips mixed up with the local potato chips. Now, the difference is that I've tasted potato chips, and potato chips usually have like a 3-month shelf life. But I sell this in the produce, and I make sure that it doesn't, it sells and turns within 3 weeks. So when you eat a chips that's fresh, or anything that you eat that's fresh, a higher quality, it's always going to taste better. And I sell in the produce department, away from all the other chips, number one. Number two, because produce people understands the importance of turns and shelf life. Yeah? So, that kind chip. Yes, Mountain Apple brand products are different and unique, and every product has a story. Here I brought you a couple examples. At one time, there was this big problem with the YV, invasive species in the forest and everything else. And, we have this hi-fi thing where people redeem their bottles and all that, but what do you do with a cap? I got a solution. I got Toshi's fish scaler, okay? It's made with YV stick, and it has bottle caps on there to scrape. And with a small sign telling the story how this thing came about, and along with a handle here. And you know, this thing probably costs about maybe 5 cents to create, but I sell it for $3.97. The Japan tourist buys it. I mean, for me, it's an educational thing where I'm able to talk to students, you know, I go to the classroom and tell them about turning waste into value, you know. So I said, hey, 5 cents, $3.97. The Japan tourist, oh, good to take back to Japan. Interesting. You know, when my son left and went out to college, my wife refused to have me purchase hot dog, hamburger buns, and all that, because, you know, I end up throwing them away because only her and I, right? So I was thinking to myself, well, you know, I got to think out of the box, and I got to do something that's totally different. So I came up with any kind of taro bread or any kind of sweet bread. Why it is so important is that you want hot dog buns, you cut it this way. You want hamburger buns, you cut it this way. You want rolls, you cut it this way. You can make any kind with one bread. So now she allows me to buy this, and I can have buns. Yeah. So, you know, it's a matter of being innovative, creative, thinking out of the box, thinking, wow, how can I solve someone's problems, right? So one day, Dr. Park wanted to talk to me about this Korean natural farming. I really wasn't too interested, but it's Dr. Park, so I'm going to, oh, of course, right? You know, I'm not going to turn down Dr. Park. Oh, yeah, Dr. Park, please come. I want to speak to you. And in my mind, I was like only 50% excited, you know. So he came to talk to me, and in that time, before that, I heard something about this Korean natural farming from my good friend, David Wong Jr., he actually helped me launch the Mountain Apple brand concept when he owned Excelsior Dairy here in Hilo. So David told me he was using this amazing method of raising plants and animals from this master trove from Korea. So I said, oh, okay. So Dr. Park came, he lectured me about this IMO and the positive effects it had on growing healthy natural plants and healthy nutritional food, you know. And at that time, I looked at my body, I said, you know what, maybe I gotta listen to Dr. Park, because, you know, he's a physician, and, you know, this and that, and he was giving me this lecture that, you know, if you use this, the plant gets more healthy. And you know what Dr. Park talks? Oh, he just puts his expression in it, and I'm over there going, whoa. And so I told Dr. Park, if you believe in this stuff so much, would you make a commercial, a TV commercial with me and endorse it? He said, sure, Derek. So then I knew that he would be willing to put his reputation online there. So I said, oh, okay, that's fantastic. So we did a commercial together. And that was fun. But I also noticed my friend David Wong Jr. started to focus on his health and being totally committed to Korean natural farming. He said, and I'm not sure in his exact words, because, you know, he's really the kind of type that everything got to be precise. And so I'm not sure what the word he said, but he told me, he told me health problems are not always caused by what you're eating, but what you're eating eats. I go, wow. You know, that night I was drinking my wine. I was thinking about it. What I'm eating eats. So, you know, whether it's like beef or what I'm drinking my wine with a grape. What did the grape eat, right? You know? So, man, that really spoiled my appetite, but that's okay. So then I say, oh, well, you know, it makes really a lot of sense. Then the true test came when I brought the product home and had my retired school teacher wife use it on her flowers. You know, she works in a garden every day. And if you don't have a school teacher wife, you don't understand what I'm talking about. Because if the thing died, I'm dead too. You know what I mean? Like I would hear it 20 years later how I killed the plants and all this, you know. So anyway, I brought them home, and she put it on the flowers, and the flowers started to bloom. It started to flower. She was so happy. And then that's how they go, happy wife, happy life, right? So, wow. I was totally convinced with what Dr. Park and all David Wong Jr. and everybody is telling me. I go, wow, okay, I'm a believer. So I believe in so much in IMO, and I worked with Dr. Park to create Imolizer. Yeah, you know, this is kind of an interesting product, you know. Actually, our whole focus, I wanted to educate and promote the concept of Korean natural farming. So when we put this out on the shelf, I had handouts where people could pick up and they could take home and understand what Imolizer was all about, what Korean natural farming was all about. So, you know, the thing started to really, really sell, you know, and because, you know, I know everything flowers. And I was kind of wondering whether it was all the marijuana growers or what. But yeah, I mean, the thing did so well. I go, wow, you know. So we had signs, we had posters, and we had products sold, you know, really well. It sold really well at KTA. So from there, I convinced Ace Hardware, another local company, to sell these products. So they have it in the store, and it was really good. So it's called Imolizer. And my intention was to sell Imolizer, and hopefully I will have Korean natural farm vegetables, fruits, eggs, chickens, hogs, product available at KTA. Unfortunately, today, I still don't have any of those products available. You know, I think it's soon to happen. Yeah? So it's Imolizer. Imolizer is a perfect mountain apple brand product. It has a story. It's not a commodity, but a value-added product. It is made from waste and converts waste into value. As you can see, for me, Hawaii is such a special place. Locally grown, locally manufactured, local businesses are so important to Hawaii. I want to end my presentation with this can of Spam and a can of Western Family Luncheon Meat. So if I ask all of you, if both of these sold for $3, which one would you buy? If sold for $3 and $2.75, which one would you buy? So if you're a luncheon meat, wouldn't you want to be the Spam that everybody wants and willing to pay more for? You don't say, I want a Western Family Luncheon Meat musubi. You said, I want a Spam musubi, right? And that is so, so important. Don't you want the Korean natural farm products become the Spam instead of some plain old can of Western Family Luncheon Meat? And we want to get into that where people want it and are willing to pay more for. So, you know, we got to work, is all of us together. We seriously want to build up on label. We seriously want to build up on reputation. We got to become like the Spam of all vegetables in the case, okay? Now, this is important if you want to succeed. You know, because I recently visited China to learn about manufacturing. You know, I was shocked with the polluted air, the polluted water, the poor working practices, and the poor refrigeration. I told myself, this cannot happen to Hawaii. The brand Hawaii must remain that magical destination where people all over the world would dream about. Yeah, Hawaiian products, services need to be special, create a demand throughout the world where people are willing to pay more for. I feel this is the key to Korean natural farming success. Every person farming by the Korean natural farming method need to take the responsibility to ensure that their products are of the highest quality, following strict guidelines, standards. And you got to build a standard and build some guidelines. If you're using the Korean natural farming method, from selling the Imolizer to growing and selling the local farm-raised product, the outcome must be of a consistent high quality. Yes, it cannot be like the made in China. Every person involved in Korean natural farming needs to be responsible and keep the brand Korean natural farming magical. Thank you very much. By the way, I'm leaving his stuff here, and I'm going to give him to Mike DuPont. So where's Mike? Mike, it's all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Derek. That was great. And yeah, we are working on that spam, vegetables and fruits. We're getting there slowly and surely. So a few other things. I wanted to thank everybody for coming, but for myself, I feel like I just took a college course in agriculture listening to Vincent. And so round of applause, please, for Vince for coming from Maui. That's really great. We're all really fortunate to have Korean natural farming. It's a simple yet profoundly effective farming methodology. And humanity's at this crossroads, and I think we all are aware of it, where we're using up the fossil fuels, the aquifer of California, the rivers, the soils. But with these simple practices, Korean natural farming practically eliminates farming's carbon footprint. It regenerates and revitalizes the soil. It conserves water. It eliminates soil erosion, as Dr. Kunhui is going to demonstrate for us visibly from her research. It's as if we've been given this light and hope and the ability to just feed ourselves, this important thing. And so we're here today to recognize Dr. Park and thank him for bringing this to Hawaii. And Dr. Park, if you could come up here.
Well, you guys can do better than that.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Park. This is like this light and hope, and thank you so much for bringing us. And we have something for you here.
Wow, thank you.